What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the next video in learning PHP object-oriented programming. My name is QDS Danny and you guys are watching my channel Crowwood. In this video we're going to talk about static attributes or static members. Alright, so what is static attributes or static members? As if you remember in the way previous videos, we said that about the class attributes, and we talked about the access modifiers, and that's how we're going to access our static variables or static properties. If you look in here, we have a public static cat, and our cat name is Fluffy. We initialize with Fluffy, and we have a puppy, but the puppy class, this this variable puppy is not a static. So that's how we're going to access inside our functions here, inside our methods, and that's how we're going to make objects and access the methods here. So that's pretty much good, but what is class static attributes? Static attributes or static methods is variables or properties that you guys can associate with a class. So it's a class variables. Say for example, how is class variable is that whenever you guys we're going to create objects, it's going to count our objects, because we're going to declare it with a class and we're going to put it with our objects. So for example, if you have a class education, and our class education have a public static, we're going to put a public, and we put a static. For example, it's going to be count students, for example, and keep in mind you have to initialize it with 0. So now this public static count students, we initialize it with 0, and we're going to put it inside our constructor. Say for example, our constructor is going to count when we instantiate our objects. Say for example, if we have a class school extends education, we can make a class, for example, there is a typo here, there is no, okay, so there is a class school extends education. So now this class education is here, and we put a static attribute here. We put a public static student counts, and we initialize it to 0. We're going to put a constructor. Say for example, we put a public function, we put a construct. We have a public static, and we're going to go self, as exactly like in our functions. We're gonna see, if you look inside the functions, we put a class variable here, the attribute here, and we put it with the self, and followed by the name of our property, which is a class property. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a public, we put a self, followed by scope resolution operator, and we put a count students. We put a count students, and if you put a plus equal to 1, our if you put a double equal, it's gonna work the same. So it doesn't matter if you put a plus equal to 1, our double plus is going to increment it by 1. So now if you want to count how many students inside your education, you can do that by this guy is here. This guy is, because that's what we call public status. It means that's associated with a class. It's a class variable. That's, in simple words, you can call this a class variable, and because this one goes inside the is a constructor of the class. And here whenever you guys are gonna put up for how many pupils or how many students this school has, it's gonna count how many students this one have. It's not gonna reveal anything about the students. Say for example, if you put a public name, public, we're gonna put a variable name, and put a public. For example, we put a public, for example, roll number. Our you can put some protected as well. We can protect it, for example, grades, because you don't want anyone to know about the student grades. So we have a public name. We can reveal the student's name. Again, we have a public roll number, because we can reveal the roll numbers of the students as well. We can put in newspapers. Say for example, this student XYZ have a roll number. This is a pass or not, but we don't want to reveal the grades. For example, we cannot reveal, for example, we can put a private. You cannot reveal, for example, age, or we cannot reveal the teacher, or we can reveal the subject, so we can put a teachers. Teachers we cannot, because according to Privacy Act, the schools can't reveal the name of the teachers. Just for example, some schools they do, but to the teachers they don't do it in newspaper or something like that. You can put here a book or something, but that's not related to this video, because we are looking for public static. We are not looking for the attributes of the whatever the students they have, whatever. So we're gonna come here and we're gonna put a, for example, name, and we can put a, for example, roll number, and we can put a grades, and we can put the last one's going to be teachers. Okay, so we can put, you can put the name as a default school name, student's name. We can put a name is gonna be, we're gonna put a student's name, and we can put this one for roll number. We can put it as a student's number, student roll number. And for the grades, we can put a, say for example, student grade. We put a student grade. And for the teachers, you can put a teachers, school teachers, say for example, school teachers. Okay, so we can, I'm gonna put it here, then student roll number. Okay, then we can do a student's name here. So that's going to be our default, but our main aim is to create the objects of this class education, because we need to pass it to the class school, the child class, which is school. So we're going to put a this. So we're going to put a this name. This for example, name, we put a name, and this roll number, we put a roll number, and then what's going to be this grade, grades, and we're going to put a grades, and finally these teachers, we're going to put a this teachers, and we're going to put a variable of teachers. All right, all done. As I said, we can put a lot of other stuff too, that you guys can put a, for example, name, first name, last name, roll number, ID. We can put a, say, you can think of a lot of stuff. We can put a books, we can put a subjects, but that's not related to this one, because we need to count the objects, how many objects we have, because that's what the static attributes, our static members, that's the job of the, say, class variable. So that's what the, say for example, here we have a student have a name, student have a roll number, a student have a grades, and a student have a teacher. So this is a perfect scenario for objects of the say for example, student. Say now we put in a constructor, we put a name, roll number, we put a grades, and we put a teachers. Here, with the help of this class variable, our class attributes, we can count how many students there in our class. So every time we create objects, that is the PHP is going to count as one. Then we're going to create the second student, the PHP is going to count it again. And here you can put a teacher, say for example grades. I'm going to change this one, say for example I want to put a books, for example, because teachers a bit private books, and I'm going to change this one as well. So I'm going to put books, and this is books, and school student books, for example. We're going to put a student books, for example, or subjects. So because teachers looks a bit weird, and teachers not related to a student, we need to have another class for the teacher, but book should do the job. So for example books, because books we can relate that one to the students, and we can do books. All right, Now it's perfectly makes sense because the student have a name, the student have a roll number, grades and books. As I said, we can put a lot of other stuff as well, but that's not very important. So now we're gonna come and we're gonna instantiate our class school, and for example we put a school, the school students, or we can put a students, and we put a new, and we put a school. Here inside this school we can put the name. For example, the name is gonna be Michael, for example, and the roll number is gonna be, say for example, 1. Then grade is gonna be, say for example, say grade is gonna be 1, and books gonna be, say for example, lots of books or subjects. We're gonna do, for example, English. Okay, so we're gonna count as a student 1. This is gonna be object 1, and we're gonna copy this one, and we're gonna do some changes. We're gonna do student 2, the second object, and this one's gonna be, say for example, the name is gonna be Azara, for example, and the roll number is gonna be 2, and the what do you call this, grade is gonna be, say for example, 2. And we're going to leave the books as a, say for example, English, and we're going to do the object 3, and it's going to be, say for example, Azad, and it's going to be, the roll number is going to be 3, and the grade is going to be, say for example, grade is going to be 5, and this one's going to be, the English going to be, say for example, math. Alright, so now we're gonna come the next student's gonna be, say for example, 4, and the school's, the name's gonna be, say for example, Linda. The grade's gonna be, say for example, 1 2 3 4, and this one, the roll number is 4, the grade's gonna be 4. We're gonna leave the book as the English, and then we're gonna do our 5th objects, which is going to be this guy here, the student number 5. The student number 5 is, for example, we do Monida, for example, and that's going to be, the grade is going to be 5, roll number is 5, and the grade is going to be, say for example, 5. And this one you can do another, say the English should do. Alright, so now how are we going to count our objects? Say for example, if we have 5 objects here, and we have a class education, we're going to count, and we have say for example, properties here, the name, roll number, grades and books, and in our constructor we have all this, plus we have our static attributes. We have our class variable, our static members. So you're gonna see, as I said, you can do plus plus, or you can do plus equal to 1. That should do increment by 1. So now we have a class school. Our school extends from education. School by itself doesn't have anything, any role, so we're gonna put a student. So I put a student. I'm gonna put a student here. Student, and we're gonna instantiate this class here, but because this class extends from the education, and at the end we're gonna come echo. We have the number of students in our school is, because we're going to look at the number of the objects, and we're going to see how many objects is there, and I'm going to concatenate that one. I'm going to put the name of the class, which is going to be the school, and scope resolution operator, and I'll put a student counter. The count students, and you can put a scope resolution operator. Then we can put a PHP end of line. PHP, this is a very good idea. EOL to the PHP end of line going to work exactly like endl in a C++, because it's going to end the line. Okay, so now we have 5 objects here. It means we have 5 students in our school, because all of them instantiating school, and we have a different name, different roll number, different grades, and we have say for example English, we have subjects here, and say for example in our school the number of students in our school is, and if you want you can put a H1 here, or we can put a H1. So here we can put another one here, and we can put a H1. We can put our tag at the H1. So we're going to count the number of the students, how many students in our school is. We can put another nice decorative message, but that's beyond the scope of this video, because we are not learning CSS or HTML, we are learning PHP. So here we can go ahead and static counter, then I'm gonna press save, I'm gonna refresh this one, and I'm gonna put what's the name of my file is a static counter. So I'm gonna go find static counter, this guy is here. And if looking guys here, that's the number of students in our school is 5. How cool is this? So with the help of say static attributes, we're going to attribute this one to the class, our static members, because if you look in here, this is static members, or you can call this as class variable. Some folks call it class variable, some folks call it static attributes to the class, and some call it static members, but they're all the same. So when you declare here, make sure you declare it to 0. You can put whatever here, you can put a public, private, whatever, but that's because we are not echoing this ones, we are not creating any other methods. The only ones we are doing, because with the help of these ones, because we are counting how many objects do we have. It's very good if you are guys making e-commerce websites, or guys making video sharing websites, even when you guys making, say for example, social networks, and you want to count how many photos the user have, or how many posts the user posted, or how many friends the user have, because all the friends going to be objects here, and we're going to count. It's going to exactly work with the as a students. So if you can count, if you have, you as a PHP programmer, we as a PHP programmer, we should be able to know what we should do to count our objects. So this is the way with the static attributes, our static members, we can count our objects. Say we initialize from 0, we put in our constructor, we increment it to 0 0. Our for example, we're gonna put a 0 equal to 1, and if I press hit, if I press save, and if I go and refresh again, you're gonna see no difference, because if I refresh, as I said to you guys, that one's this one, and double plus is equal to the same, is exactly the same works the same, because this one increments by 1, that one increments by 1 too. So regardless of how many objects you guys create, PHP is going to count it. So for example, if you're going to come and we're going to put another say for example 2 more, and we put a 4 5 student 6, that's the 6th objects, and that's the 7th object, and you can put whatever name as here. You can put XX, or you can put a ZZ, YY, you can put YY, and that's roll numbers 4 5 6 and 7. Okay, so now we're gonna refresh, and our object's gonna be the 7. The number of students in our school is 7. That's how we count our objects. So that's static attributes, our static members in our in the PHP. That's how we're gonna count our objects. So that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe Koraiwood. If you guys have any question or comment, leave in the comment box. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video, and bye.